How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Day Dave, and this is another Farm Sim Talk. How is everybody doing tonight? I hope you're having a fantastic day so far. We are joined here by Gamer Joy, also known as Josh. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's gaming joy, but we can get into what that means in a minute.
I'm
You're
sorry, I
doing great.
did blow that right off the bat, didn't I?
It's okay.
Gaming Joy, wow. That's how we're going to start this one. I can see it already. Anyways, hope you're having a fantastic night tonight, and I hope everybody out there is having a great one. So, for those who have not seen this yet, this is a show where we are dedicating it to the creators within the Farming Simulator community. What we are trying to get out of this is a more deeper, kind of personal dive into the individual creators so we can kind of come out of it having a deeper understanding and appreciation for each one of us that are out in this space. So, Josh, let me start this off by thanking you very much for coming out here and hanging out with us here tonight. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. And I
Of course.
also want to give a big shout out to Dust Bunny. Dust Bunny is a mutual friend of ours who actually put me in contact with you. So, thank
Yep.
you, Dust Bunny. Greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks,
And
that's
we've
funny.
got a whole bunch of people out there in the chat, so let's go ahead and get this started. We're going to go ahead and start out with our introductions. So, first off, where can everybody find you?
The usual suspects, really. YouTube at Gaming Joy, at Gaming Joy without the vowels, so GMNG Joy. And then I have the same username everywhere else. So Gaming Joy on YouTube, same username on Twitter, same username on Discord, same username on GitHub. That's pretty much where you can find me.
Excellent. And do you want to give anybody any shout outs before we get going in this?
Oh yeah, thank you directly to you. This is actually my first interview. I've never done this kind of interview before. I'm usually the interviewer, but that's for work. And but this is going to be fun. So thank you, and thank you especially to Dust Bunny for setting this up. She was really nice. She didn't actually just blindly introduce me to you. She reached out to me first. She's like, "Hey, he's doing this thing. Do you want to be part of it? I could totally set you up for it." I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds fun." So I think that her kind of background nature in this section of the community is amazing. So thank you, Dust Bunny.
Yes, absolutely. Dust Bunny has actually put me in contact with many other creators within the space, so she is an absolute rock star and couldn't thank her enough because without her, honestly, this whole adventure would not have happened. Like, none of this. So,
Rock on.
yeah, big, big shout out to Dust Bunny. So we're going to go ahead and get started in our first segment here, which is known as Digging Up Dirt. This is the getting to know you phase without the whole farming simulator angle to it. We want to know who you are personally. So you'd mentioned that you would have a job, that you do interviews for your job. So this is obviously not your primary job within the farming simulator community.
I wish.
I think we all do.
I think a
So
couple of people have suggested they're like, why don't you just stop doing what you're doing and go work for Giants? I'm like, I tried. I've applied there twice. They don't want me.
well, maybe one day, we can start a petition, be like Giants, hire him. Let's do this.
You
Come
know,
on.
it's because they don't allow remote. So they don't allow anyone to work remotely outside of a Giants office. And in this day and age, remote workers are prevalent, especially within the software engineering industry, which is the industry I'm in. I've been working remote from home, sometimes going to an office, but mostly remote for 7 to 10 years now. And it's part of that kind of software development, internet space industry. But Giants doesn't want to allow it, which I understand. That's fine. But I actually did apply. I applied both as a software engineer to work on the Giants platform, but they said that it's only for Germany. You had to move to Germany. They didn't actually give me an offer or anything. I applied for it, and they're like, "No, you're in the U.S. Too bad." And then I also applied indirectly through Kermit. I was like, "Hey, do you want a modding community coordinator? You're a great community coordinator. Do you want someone who knows the modding community and can coordinate the modding community side of things, because there's obviously a gap." And he said thank you, but no thanks.
Ralph Fanning Jonah has
But as
become
a
a
day job,
member.
I'm in the
10
software
months
engineer.
of
I've been
fun.
a front end web developer essentially for 25 years now. At this level in my career, I'm actually more into the management side of things, where I'm an architect. So I help architect solutions for large to small companies on how to get whatever they're trying to deliver out onto the internet, and how to do it at scale, and how to make it successful, and how to make sure that it doesn't crash every day. And I've been doing that for years and years.
Oh, excellent. So, do you think that that's kind of helped you kind of come into the farming simulator modding space and be able to do everything that is that you do?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The everything in the modding space, and this may be news to people if you don't know about it, but every mod that's made Red Giants is based on two different software programming languages. One is a markup language, which is XML. Markup means that it's predefined what needs to be there. So you're not making stuff up. You're using an established structure to define how something happens. And then the other language is Lua, which is a very common programming language in game development. And it's just a programming language similar to JavaScript. And I use JavaScript every day. I use HTML every day, CSS. That's what I do for my day job. So switching to XML and Lua is just syntax at the kind of point in my career where I am. So it's just a matter of, okay, well, I know how to do this in JavaScript. How do I do it in Lua? Or I know HTML spec. Now I just have to learn Giant spec.
Okay. So it sounds very similar to something I do, which I work in SQL programming and whatnot, working in databases and stuff. So as long as you know
I've done
kind of
that too.
yeah, so as long as you know kind of the general language structure, you're kind of
Mhm.
able to flow in and out of the different spaces. That sound about right?
Exactly. Like if you're an engineer working on backend database structures like yourself, you could work on a MySQL database, or you could work on an Oracle SQL database, or you could work on a Postgres SQL database, or you could work on a NoSQL database. And the language and the way things work are relatively the same, except for just little pieces of code that need to be in different places or written a different way. But the logic and the basic logic is the same.
Gotcha. Okay, so that makes a load of sense. And I want to give a
Whiskey
shout
Creek
out
Farms
to
has become a member.
big shout out to
2 months.
Rail Fanning
Time for
Jonah
a
who
lot
just
more
gifted a
fun.
membership. Thank you, Jonah. Greatly appreciate that. So, kind of going back to the more personal outside of the farming simulator community, what kind of hobbies do you have outside of programming and things like that? What are some of your big things that you like to do?
Um, I don't know. I'm a family man. I have a daughter, wife, and we live here in California. And but outside of work, I have to get away from the computer sometimes, right? And so for the past, I think about 6 to 7 years or so, I've been learning woodworking. And it's just as a hobby, just kind of giving me something to make with my hands. One of the first things I learned to do in woodworking was, and something that I kind of latched onto really quickly, was bowl turning, which is basically taking a chunk of wood and turning it into like a physical thing. So I make stuff like this. This is like I don't know if it'll focus, camera focus. It's not going to focus. But I make little bowls like this, or like this. This is a little like a little bowl that you'd use for like a snack or something like that. It's on my desk literally as a snack bowl. And then I also got into, because I'm a software engineer, I'm like, okay, how can I automate this? Because making bowls by hand takes a lot of skill and time and makes a big mess. It's a super fun mess to make, by the way, but it makes a big mess. But how can I automate this? If I want to make bowls to give to people, that's hundreds of hours of my time. So how do I make it automated? So then I got a CNC machine, and I make stuff like this. This is like a little catch tray that I made out of some reclaimed, reclaimed breadwood. And I made this catch tray, this exact catch tray. I made a dozen of them, and I brought them to Christmas about 2 years ago. And I let each family member pick one. And they were all the same, but they were all different, because with wood, every piece of wood is different, even if they're cut from the same tree. And so you have some of them that were like, because they were cut on two pieces of wood like this, and they were cut like this, and then they looked almost the same, but they were slightly different. And I've been happy enough to be able to do that, mostly for gifts and stuff like that for Christmas. But my favorite thing of the bowls, I gave my parents a bowl that was bigger than my monitor. I have a 27-inch monitor, and they have a 21-inch bowl. So
Wow.
hold it up to the monitor. It's about the same size as my monitor. It was gigantic, and they have that as like a centerpiece on like their like kitchen counter.
I mean, based on what I saw there, they look gorgeous, and I completely understand and appreciate that as a hobby because I do the same exact thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm anywhere near as skilled as you are, um, but I tend to go off schematics or like plans and stuff like that, so I can recreate something that's already kind of fleshed out, but I can't do like what you did there with actually turning and doing stuff. It just ends up looking awful.
I think that's one of the things that I've done the same kind of stuff. Like I've done furniture. I built a desk for my daughter when she grew up to be old enough to need a desk. You know, stuff like that. But I tend to lean away from that stuff because I like the artistry of doing the bowl turning, and I like the artistry of being able to take something in my head, create it in a 3D modeling program like Fusion, and then tell a machine to make it for me. Like there's an art there. It's not just it's a halfway between programming and art, and I have notebooks full of crazy ideas, and it is really very rewarding to me to get those ideas out into the physical world and be able to give them to people. Most of the stuff I've made, I give away as gifts. I don't think I've sold anything. It's all just gifts, and it's a means of, hey, we're going over to someone's house for Easter, so I bring them a bowl that sits in their counter with some chips and dip in it. I'm like, okay, I brought chips and dip. The bowl is yours. And like to be able to do that, like people value that so much, and I think that's to me that's rewarding. And it's also kind of why I do the modding side of things too, is because I find it incredibly rewarding when I hear of people be like, "Oh my god, your mod is the one mod that I carry through every place save game." Like that to me is so rewarding.
Oh, I can completely understand that. And it's one of those, you used a word, and I'm going to latch onto it, art. And I think that you found the kind of uh, the physical medium that allows your art that is the modding that you do to kind of get into the physical world.
Yeah.
Because the modding space is art. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You've got the
Mhm.
modeling itself, you've got the coding, the programming, that like everything about it is a work of art, and it's hundreds of hours of labor to be able to get one single mod out there. It's the same thing with woodworking. You get all that time, energy, and effort into, especially the programming side. If you're using the CNC machine, like you said, I
Mhm.
mean that's the physical representation of the art, and that's incredible. I can highly respect that.
I
So
think to finish your question, I don't really do anything much out of that. I'm not a sports person. I don't watch sports at all. I've never been a sports person. I used to play hockey when I was a kid, but I don't really follow any kind of professional sports except for one, and the finale was a couple hours ago. So I watch one race per year, only one. I watched an off-road race called the Dakar Rally,
Dakar.
which is a 14-day race where your time is totaled over the 14 days you're racing, and it's done on dirt bikes, side by sides, cars like trucks, like Ford Raptors kind of thing, and like big rigged size trucks that are designed for racing. And they literally race, and it's crazy because like for the bike division, over 14 days, the top three people, there was like 10 minutes between them. Like that's
Wow.
how competitive it is. It's crazy. And the last day was today, and after this, I'm gonna go watch the highlight reel.
Oh, excellent. So you mentioned you played hockey. Out of curiosity, what
Mhm.
position?
Defense. I
Oh,
was a right defense. I played hockey for about 13, 14 years as a kid, until I suffered a pretty bad accident and I'm no longer able to
Ralph
play.
Fanning
I
Jonah
don't know if
donated
you can see it, but I have
$1.99 through
really
Super
bad
Chat.
scars on my
Smile.
arm, right there and right there. A dual spiral fracture on my arm. I
oh,
checked someone a little bit too hard, and their stick came up like this, and I literally broke my arm over their stick. But I haven't been able to play hockey ever since.
Yeah, I could certainly see how that would be a problem. Kind of need the structure to
Yeah,
be intact in order to do anything in hockey, especially on
yeah,
defense. You're having to box people out and keep them away from the center.
exactly.
So I understand. I was
Yeah,
a
I
goalie
couldn't, I
back in the
couldn't,
day.
I couldn't take the vibrations of like taking a slap shot. Like for me, wrist shot, slap shot from the blue line. That was my trade. I hurt goalies because I had a really hard slap shot, and I couldn't deal with the vibrations from it anymore.
Oh, I could imagine. Like you said, you get that kind of a break. I mean, that's not something that heals
No,
right.
no,
Period.
no. I was in it happened in high school. I was playing for like a local town team, and I was also playing for the high school team. I literally had a game at my high school team, and then 2 hours later, I had a game for the local town team, which was I went from like being like the backup of the backup on the high school team to being like number two on the town team. I was the top of the team because it was just different leagues, right? And I was having a lot of fun in the game, and then I ended up breaking my arm, but it was uh, roughly 9 months of healing over the course of 2 years. They had to cut me open, put metal plates in, and then cut me open again and take them back out. And I spent 9 months of my high school career um, with a cast on my writing arm.
Oh, yeah. So that just
And
makes it
this was but
difficult
this was
to.
before this was like Apple IIe type days in high school. So it wasn't even prevalent to be able to be using computers for anything school related. It was still like, oh hey, we're going to learn how to play Snake. That was like what computer class was when I was in school. So I had ended up having to write a couple papers like for finals and stuff like that with a cast on my arm. It was terrible.
Oh man, yeah. I hear you there. Having to do all that schoolwork and whatnot with a busted up arm and having to write with a cast and all that, I sympathize. I had something very similar happen to me. So yeah, that one's absolutely rough. Let's see. So moving on from the sports and hobbies and stuff, what kind of books, movies, and music are you into?
Um, hmm. I listen to pretty much everything as far as music's concerned. I'm a fan of just about anything, but I don't listen to music for enjoyment. Like I'll listen to whatever's on. My wife runs the radio in the car, but I'll listen to whatever. I'm fine with it. I think if when I'm streaming, I usually have electronic music in the background. That's usually my go-to from a background noise type of thing, and I'll listen to everything across all the genres. Um, for books, I've been an avid reader since I was a kid. Super early on. I've hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. And then sometime around about 10 years ago, my vision started going and I had a vision problem where I couldn't read anymore. And so I've switched to audiobooks, which means that my time of listening to anything is usually listening to audiobooks. And I listen to a dozen or more audiobooks a year.
Okay. And what
And
about?
then,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, what about movies?
Oh, again, just about anything. I'm a sci-fi nerd. I love anything sci-fi related. I like, which leads into video games and too as well. Like usually go for sci-fi based video games. That's usually kind of my go-to. But I consume a lot of content. As I'm working, I typically have something on or playing almost all the time, just background stuff. But like I will watch TV series, like just about anything, and I'll just let it play. I'll watch movies, and I'll watch movies over and over, and I won't even be looking at the screen. I won't actually be watching. I'll be working, but it's just something. It's just white noise to me. But uh, like anything, I love the best when you get a movie that's based on a book where the movie is accurate to the book. And there's been a few in the past couple of years that really, really kind of resonated with me. One that I've watched half a dozen times was um, I just forgot the name of the movie. The one where they go to Mars, um, uh, where they have
With
to rescue what's his name on Mars. What's
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon on Mars. I forget the name of the movie.
Oh,
It's based on a book. The book was amazing, and I've read the book. And to be able to see a movie on it is equally amazing. Another one recently was the name will come to me. Um, is Dune. I was big into sci-fi as a kid, and Dune as a book, and I've read the whole series, all 6 or 7 books of it or whatever, 20 years ago. And to now see that coming into modern age as a new movie, even though there was an old movie and there was a mini series and all that stuff, but to be able to know all of the lore and everything, and then be able to see it coming to life on the screen, on the big screen, is one of my favorite things. And so, like, for stuff like Star Wars and stuff like that, I've read the books too, and Lord of the Rings, I've read all of the books, and then I see the movie. And I usually like to read the book before I see the movie, so that I don't get jaded by the movie when I'm trying to read the book.
yeah, I can completely understand that. There's nothing worse than seeing the movie first, going back to the book, and it's like, oh, this is so much better. Why did I bother with this?
Exactly,
Mm.
exactly. And I've done that with a lot. I mean, and it's not just sci-fi stuff. Like when the Harry Potter movies first came out, I'm like, oh, that looks like a cool movie. I'm gonna read the books. And I read all of the books. And for me, the books were more fun than the movies, but the movies were somewhat accurate. And it was nice to have that comparison. Or sometimes, because you're in a 2-hour movie, you can't have all of the content that's in a 500 to 600 page book. You just can't replicate it all. It's really impossible. And so if you read the book first, you know the backstory, you know the side stories, you know the character development that they just can't get to in a movie. And sometimes that makes the movie better, because I'm like, oh, well, I know why he's mad right now. And that's kind of fun to me.
Oh yeah, it's like that hidden lore behind the scenes that you know that if somebody hadn't read the book, they'd be like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So we know your favorites. What
Mhm.
about your kind of oddest? Like, what's like one of the most off the wall, books, movie, and music that you would listen to or watch or?
Off the wall. I don't know. Mainly because I just watch anything. Spent so much time with my daughter growing up watching Disney movies. I can recite just about every single Disney movie and every single song in every single Disney movie from memory. And um, it's not anything that I would normally pick out, but I still like going to see those movies. Like, we actually go, like, I love seeing movies like the ones that are more modern now, like the Lego movie, right? When a kid sees a Lego movie, they're like, "Oh, cool, Legos, yay!" But then I'm busting out laughing that entire movie, because half of the jokes in that movie are intended for the parents. They're not intended for the kids. And so I love like little things like that. But yeah, I know every song from Little Mermaid by heart, just because that was my daughter's favorite movie.
It's amazing the things that we pick up from our kids. I've got
Yeah,
2 daughters of my own, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've got two that are going through the Sesame Street stage right now, and yeah, all the kind of songs and all that stuff is just, yep. You eventually just
it
get used to
permeates
it.
your mind, and
Hmm.
when you start quoting Yo Gabba Gabba to your coworkers, that's when it becomes a problem.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So, what would you do if creating content,
Hmm?
whether it's modding, whether it's YouTube, if that was no longer an option for whatever reason, if it was not available to you, what would you do?
For modding?
Well, whether it was for
Oh,
modding or for YouTubing.
I would put more effort onto the woodworking side of things. And I started creating content for the woodworking. So, and that's where the channel name sort of came from. So I have a sister channel, I guess, called Making Joy, which is a making channel. All kinds of making, woodworking, metalworking, CNC, 3D printing, all that kind of stuff. And I was very, very active on Instagram, pretty much until I found FarmSim. And then I kind of had another avenue for that creativity. And so, like, I hit the 1,000 followers milestone on Instagram, and I felt successful. I mean, that was a milestone for on Instagram back in the day. Nowadays, people reach it in a couple hours. But I would probably focus more on creating content on the making side of things and being able to show my creativity in a more physical way and um, spend more time doing that.
Okay. And what is one thing, again, outside of the farming simulator community, that you don't consider yourself being very good at?
Being very good at, oh, I don't know. Um, I'm so I'm a tall, lanky guy, and the one thing I've never been good at, and I to this day it irks me. I can't dance to save my life. Um, even like simple stuff like ballroom dancing or like trying to cha-cha. Like I have four left feet. It's just it's insane. I can't do it at all. My brain can't parse the pattern. And that's what it is. I mean, software engineering is all patterns and being able to parse those patterns, understand how those patterns go together. Dancing, can't do it. I can't move my body and my hands and my arms and my legs in sync with music for some reason. I don't know. I can't do it. I'm horrible at dancing. And my wife loves to make fun of me for it. And we've taken classes together. And it's a thing where if I practice enough, I will get a single dance and I can do it good. And we choreographed something for our wedding, and I did that dance and I did it really well. I can't remember it to this day. No idea. Gone. It was gone 20 minutes after we were done.
It's amazing how our brains and our bodies are able to thrive in one space, but like incapable of being able to translate what should be relatively translatable into another space. It's kind of
Right?
an interesting kind of concept.
Yeah.
So,
It's like I'm a like I like it's funny because like dancing is a little bit like you think about it, it's the same kind of movements as driving. Like I can drive a stick shift. I can drive a school bus that's a stick shift. Like I'm trained to do that. I'm licensed to do it, right? And it takes a lot of skills, lots of things going on. Your arms, your hands, your feet, you're moving all at once in a rhythm and a pattern. And sometimes that pattern changes dynamically, and I'm good at it. But how can I not move my body to do something simple like dancing? I just never do it.
and you know what? I'm right there with you again. It's one of those I've never been coordinated enough to be able to dance. My wife regrets it to this day that I don't even try. It's one of those. It's so bad. I might as well be doing the disco.
Yeah, I can sit dance. If I'm sitting down, I can groove a little bit, but standing up, not happening.
So you've mentioned how you've got a wife, a child, work full time, you are a modder, a YouTuber. How do you come up with the perfect balance to be able to do all these things? A woodworker on top of that, how do you find time to strike that balance to not take too much time away from one that kind of uh, hurts that one portion of your life and
Yeah, I think that um, this I guess in a business a little bit too. If you want to start a business, right, and this is what they always teach you, if you want to put and kick off a new business like self-employed, right, you have to put your focus into that thing, and to put the ultimate focus into that thing, other things will fall behind, right? And so over time, as I learn new things, as I do new things, for me, family comes first 100% of the time. And I've stopped in the middle of my stream and said, I have to go by. And because my wife needed me. Family comes first 100% of the time. And then outside of family and outside of work, which is supporting my family, um, that's when I find time for modding. So I will lose sleep or lose um, lose focus on other things. Like I haven't done woodworking in a while because I've been focused on modding. Right now, modding is my passion and something that I really, really enjoy. And so my focus is right now on modding. And so because of that, the woodworking is, I haven't been in my shop in 6 months. So there is a balance, but for me, that balance is, it's never about balancing family and gaming. It's about balancing gaming outside of family time. And that's the difference for me. Family is 100% of the time. I actually do a lot of modding sitting at the kitchen counter. Like I purposely don't have a tower. I have a laptop, and my laptop allows me to go downstairs and hang out with my family and be there with my family, and they're playing video games too, or writing or watching TV or whatever. But I'm right there with them, and I'm there as an active member of the family. And I might be tinkering with a mod or something like that, or testing something. But I have literally 2, maybe 4 hours a week where I'm focused on playing games, and that's when I'm streaming. That's it. I have a schedule. It's on our family schedule. I stream on Tuesday nights from 6 to 8. That's it. And sometimes I'll throw an extra stream in there on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday if I can find some time in the morning. But other than that, I'm with my family and I'm focused on the family. And then the part of the reason that I'm slow to release and produce mods is because mods is not my focus. My family's my focus. I'm just doing the mods for fun.
Very well said, and again, 100% agree with you. It's not necessarily finding that balance; it's that finding the priorities, and it sounds like you got it 100%. So, what are some of the things that inspire and motivate you in life?
I would say less things and more. I get most inspiration from people, and how people carry themselves, how they are able to focus or be outspoken or whatever it is that I latch onto or I admire. I tend to focus more on people and trying to emulate the way they are and how they can do whatever it is that I'm admiring them for. I listen to like a lot of books on tape, but I also listen to a lot of podcasts. I still listen to a lot of the woodworking podcasts that I used to listen to, and I take things from those podcasts and I emulate some of those things, that the way they say, the way they speak to people, the way they wrap up a show, like little things like that. I will take what they're doing as inspiration because it does inspire me, and try to adapt that to my own life or to what I'm doing. And so I spend a lot of time seeing and absorbing and looking at the people around me and trying to emulate them whenever I can, and also learning from them. I spend a lot of time learning, and that I also spend an equal amount of time. If I learn something, I want to share it with other people. So um, even as far as like streaming and gaming and modding and all that kind of stuff, I spend a lot of time on the other side of the fence where I'm taking my time, my only that small amount of time that we talked about, and sharing my time, helping someone else be able to achieve their goals. And that's equally as important to me as getting my own mod released, but seeing other people release their mods, or helping a streamer be able to fix their audio so that their audio is clear because they have no idea how to do it, or whatever it is. I spend a lot of my time teaching as well as taking inspiration from others.
That sounds fantastic. Is it often that you will help other modders and other people within the community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been and I've probably had I have on 22. I had like 8 mods on ModHub. I probably had the effect on another dozen, unnamed, unrecognized, just helping people fix their problems. Um, there's a bunch of people in chat like Nacho and Model Houseman and some of the people who are in my Discord who I've helped them figure out their issues with modding and stuff like that. There's one of the people on my Discord. They reached out to me at the beginning of 25, and they're like, "Hey, I want to make my first mod, and I've been watching your videos on how to make mods, and I need some help with some stuff." And I helped him, and his mod actually got released before mine. I helped him be successful, and that was equally as important to me as my own success, right? Or whatever success there is. And it's I want to give back just as much as I receive, whether I'm receiving something from taking or just absorbing content. or other people have turned around and helped me. And I think that's just as equally important. And not only that, I also help people who don't even know that I'm helping them. Again, back to Dust Bunny, she's the gateway, right? She's reached out to me half a dozen times. I'm like, hey, this other modder in this other Discord that I'm part of is having this problem with their mod. I'm like, oh, well, they just need to do this, this, and this. And then so she passes that information to them. They solve their problem, and they're like, oh, cool, I'm done. And they'll never know that I was the one who helped them, but I took my time to explain something in a way that helped them be able to solve their own problem. And that's why I'm here. One of the reasons I became part of this community and became part of the modding community is not for fame or fortune. We don't make money modding. It's to help people. It's to build community. I'm a community person, whether that's building communities, whether that's enabling communities to be built, whether that's, being the supporter of other communities. I've had jobs where I was actually part of, I did a job for a long time, about 10 years ago, for a forum website. And it was literally a website dedicated to building communities. And I was an engineer making features to make them be able to build communities easier. I actually applied at YouTube and interviewed at YouTube and told them in the interview, I'm like, the one thing you're failing at, you as in YouTube, is you don't support communities. And this is how. And I told them in the interview what they should do. They didn't hire me because I don't think they liked me saying that to them. Guess what got released 6 months later? The community tab. Coincidence? I'm not sure.
That would be an awfully strange coincidence if you ask me.
It's what happened.
I mean, and that's fantastic because at the end of the day, when you're out there helping people and putting yourself out there and putting community first, one makes the community stronger, better, faster. And at the same time, it also helps you hone your skills because you're going to start seeing a more diverse set of mods, of all these different types of angles to look at things. That at the end of the day is going to help you hone your skills and be better at what you do. So
100%. Everything I've learned from modding has been from reading. No one taught me how to mod. No one taught me how to write software. I don't even have a degree. Like, I learned everything by doing, by taking something out, ripping it to pieces, building it back up, and then making it better. So much of my time, like, I love helping people with their random questions. Hey, do you know about this? I'm like, I don't know. Let's figure it out together. And then I will dive in and figure it out why their thing isn't working. I'll help them fix it. And they will move on and do whatever they're doing, whether it's for a live stream, whether it's to release on ModHub, who cares? I don't care. But I help them, number one. That's the most important part. But number two, I actually learned something because I didn't know before how to fix their problem, and now I know how to fix their problem, and now I can apply that knowledge maybe to something else in the future. Who knows? Maybe not. And I've gotten ideas from other people too. And some of the mods, like the VPW mod that I know that you love, and I know a lot of people love, and I'm almost done with. That came from a streamer. They happened to have they said in their stream, they're like, oh, I wish I could adjust the width of this thing. I wish I could just get just a little bit more width out of my baler. And I was like, oh, well, I can do that. And that's how that mod came around. It's just like, oh, I can solve that for you. And then I gave it to them to try, and they're like, this is awesome. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do it for everything and give it to ModHub. And then everyone got it.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those where because you're putting yourself out there, you're making yourself a part of the community, you're not only, again, building up the community, but you're also making it better in the process, and you're able to get those ideas that you may not have gotten otherwise. So that's absolutely fantastic.
Exactly.
And it's certainly a nice little story to hear. So what's one thing that people generally are surprised to find out about you?
I don't know. That's a weird question. I'm generally surprised.
Like if somebody were to be like if you were to introduce yourself to somebody and they were just kind of a person who kind of judges a book by their cover and you say, "Well, I do X," and it's not anything that would be kind of apparent by how they would first be introduced to you.
Um, I think my personality doesn't come off visually. And when I meet people in many situations, especially in business situations, I come off as a little bit coarse. Um, I'm from the East Coast, and people from the East Coast are very, very direct. We don't sugarcoat things. We don't dance around issues. If we're mad at you, we're going to tell you, "Hey, I'm mad at you. Let's figure it out right now, not tomorrow. Right now." And so that directness comes off to people as, especially people on this coast, as someone being abrasive or rude or angry or what. And a lot of people don't realize that I'm nice when they meet me, and that I'm helpful, and that all I want to do is make their life better. People don't see that for me when they first meet me. I'm tall and stocky, and I don't really give off friendliness, but I'm a friendly guy, and I just want to help everyone around me for whatever there is. I end up talking to random people on the street, and people like they see me coming. They're like, "Oh my god, what's this guy want?" And I'm like, "Hey, I saw you walking your dog. How are you today?" I'm like, they don't see it, and so they don't get that. And then they realize, usually within a few minutes, that I'm just being nice. And my kid doesn't understand that at all. She's like, "How do you just talk to people? I don't get it. Like, you don't know that person. How are you just able to talk to them and say hi and make a conversation out of nothing?" And I'm like, "Practice."
I think that's certainly a skill has been lost with the current generations, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
So, what's one of your biggest fears that keeps you up at night?
Um, this one's kept me up at night a lot lately, and it's being able to support my family. Um, I think that I'm the sole breadwinner of the family, and in the industry that I'm in, it's very volatile. I've been laid off 4 times in the past 6 years. Um, Laid off like out of nowhere, company downsizes and bye bye, you don't have a job, or laid off for no good reason, and that keeps me up at night. This year, actually, or last year, I got laid off in February, and I didn't find another job until July. And those 4 months were the hardest months ever, because the industry that I'm in is so cutthroat, and there's a million people in this area, in the Bay Area, that are looking for jobs, and it was really, really hard to find something else. And I was having problems sleeping because I was so worried that I was not going to be able to support my family. And I think that that's one reason that this still keeps me up at night, even though I have a great job now. I try to diversify as far as like what I'm doing and how money comes in. Modding brings in a little bit of money. I don't think it's going to bring in a lot, but it brings in a little bit of money. Someday, if I make it to partner on YouTube, that'll bring in a little bit of money. I've got a CNC machine downstairs, and if I take some time away from modding, I'll be able to set up a little bit of a business and sell stuff off the CNC machine, or maybe the laser machine, or maybe the 3D printer that's back here that I know how to use. I have all these avenues for helping when and if something happens. And so, but most people don't know what to do. They just lose a job. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I immediately have stuff to pivot to. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not working right now. While I'm looking for a job, I'm going to do this, 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 and this to continue to support my family. And that's probably the one thing that keeps me up at night is how to do that, and how I can do that continuously. I don't want to be a software engineer forever. I don't want to keep doing this forever. I would rather do modding or YouTube or whatever, or making, or something like that forever. And right now it's just a matter of taking baby steps to build that side of my life up to be able to do that someday.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that, that's one of the biggest fears when you are an adult and you have a family is, what happens if tomorrow I don't have my job. What do I do? And you laid out perfectly all the different avenues that one should try and do is not just put their eggs all in one basket, but be able to have multiple different ways to kind of support themselves if the inevitable may happen. So it's one of those. It sounds like you definitely have carved yourself into a good position to where it may not, it ought not keep you up that late at night, but it's certainly always going to be one of those kind of back of the mind kind of things. Is and you never know, and especially because like I said, I'm in a very similar field as you are. Um, you never know the pressures that can be exerted from any direction,
Yeah.
and especially in the area that you're in. Yeah, you're right. It's a cutthroat industry that you are never truly safe in.
Yeah. And so as long as you know that, and as long as you plan that, I'm a penultimate learner. I'm always learning. I'm always learning new skills, new things. And the reason I do that is number one, I like to learn. I love it. But also because I know that all of these different skills and these different hobbies and these things that I know how to do, I could transition those into another source of income or another career should the world explode, or should Silicon Valley go into the sea. Okay, well, now what am I going to do? And I will find things to do, and I will keep busy, and I'll do anything to support my family. But to do that, I have to keep learning. I have to keep continuing to grow those skills. I have little teeny skills all over the place. Like I mentioned earlier, like I was a bus driver in college for no good reason other than it's a skill, and it's a special kind of license that takes training to get, and they train me for free. So now I have that skill. I could be a bus driver. I could be a trucker if I wanted to. I'm sure I could adapt that training to something else similar and adjust my priorities.
I think the term is Renaissance man, if I'm not mistaken. It's the kind of having lots of skills in many different areas. The jack of all trades kind of thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's certainly one of those mentalities of when you stop learning, you become stagnant, you become idle, and that's when the bad things start to happen.
Of
So
course,
no, it
I'm
sounds
always learning, always adapting, always doing something new.
that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. So, do you have any pets?
Yes, we currently have a dog. We have a 2-year-old German Shepherd slash Husky mixed with 17 other things that we rescued. She's about 2, and she helps me get outside and continue being getting exercise um, because I sit in front of a computer all day and then I sit in front of a computer all night. So I get out on walks with her and keep some exercise going.
It's fantastic. It's amazing, just the kind of dynamic that a pet will add to a home. And like you said, you work and you sit in front of a computer all day. You come home and you sit modding at night. It's one of those that you've got to come up with these kind of methods to be able to keep yourself more active than just being able to,
Exactly.
doing what we do here.
Yeah.
Uh, so who would you say, besides yourself, is your favorite creator on the farming simulator scene, and your favorite creator outside farming simulator? So whether it's in YouTube or whatever the
Hmm.
case may be.
Sure. I think within the farming simulator community, my favorite creator, and this was repeated. I know that Whiskey just mentioned Llama, which is why it actually comes to my mind. They had a YouTube meetup at Llama, and all of the big creators were up on stage, and almost every single one of them had the same answer as me. And I'm going to say Scroft. He's probably the farm sim content creator that is changing the content creation game. He's not creating farm sim videos. He's creating what should be on TV as a drama, and he's doing it all himself, with his wife. But um, he's using the farm sim engine as a vehicle to create what most people would see on TV as a drama on Friday nights. And what he's done is amazing, and I've been an avid supporter of him. I've been one of his top tier supporters ever since he released the top tier support because I want to support him. I've made mods for Scroft to help him with his videos. I'm actually in the middle of developing a mod with Scroft for Farm Sim 25. But to do it, and again, it was one of those things where he said something in a video. I'm like, I messaged him the next day. I'm like, you know what? I can solve that for you. And would you like to work on this together? And so we're working on a mod that's gonna, if Giants ever gets to testing, we'll probably get into the testing queue and get it released. But like, he's just changing the game. I think outside of Farm Sim, I don't know. There's probably two. And if you ever watch any of this stuff, you'll know where I get some of my inspiration. So one of them is a channel called I Like to Make Stuff, which is it's a making channel done by a guy who's a father of 4 kids, and he makes stuff in his basement essentially. And he has turned making stuff in his basement into a 2+ million follower channel. With a team of 5 or 6 people he works with. And he's taken literally just making stuff in his basement and turned it into a channel. His tagline at the beginning is, he's like, "Hi, I'm Bob, and I like to make stuff." And it's been an argument over time what that actually was he's saying. And I like to make I like to make stuff, or like the way he says his tagline was kind of fuzzy, and there's a big argument over time. But that's why I do my intro. I'm Josh. This is the Gaming Joy channel. Like that's why I do my intro. It was from him, and taking some of the inspiration from the way he runs his channel and runs his business and makes time for family. Saying he's the same as me. Family's first, and then he runs his business outside of that. I think that's amazing, and he's been able to turn into literally doing the same thing. He was a software engineer before, and he has turned into YouTube, and now he does YouTube full time. And I admire that, and maybe someday I'll get there. Who knows? And then the only other one I'd say is, I brought this up in the chat before we started, which is Sean Evans. Sean Evans is he's an interviewer for this show called Hot Ones, which is literally, it's an interview, person-to-person interview thing where they're eating hot chicken wings, and the chicken wings go through 10 levels of how hot they are. And the one thing I love about it, the way he does it, is he's made this amazing, huge channel. It started from nothing. And all of it is based on his interviewing style and how he asks questions. So I was joking with you that if you ask me any kind of Sean Evans style questions, that I would leave. And the reason for that is that he asks these like out of left field questions. He'll be like interviewing Ben Stiller, and he's like, "So how did going to, so and so a school when you were 12 and working at the McDonald's down the street affect your career trajectory?" And Ben Stiller's like, "How did you even know that? How did you, like, that's not even public information." He's a super researcher, and he finds all this little stuff, and then he finds a way to turn it into a really digging and pressing but easy to answer question. And I admire that. I think that's showing that research in an interview situation can make the craziest interviews. So if you don't ever watch Hot Ones, I would definitely recommend it. They're on like season 23 or something like that. They do 10 episodes a year, and it started out with just nobodies, and lately he's interviewed like everyone from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, like all of the actors. He's had them on his show over the past couple of years. He's getting really, really big names in there, like Ben Stiller or whoever. And his interviews are amazing, and mainly because by the time they get to like the 8th wing, their mouth is on fire, and they lose all of their filters, and they lose the ability to answer questions. And he's like in the middle of them both crying their eyes out from how hot things are. He's like asking like these super deep, detailed, pressing questions, and I'm like, I can't even look at you right now. How are you still talking? I think that's amazing. It's such a great premise.
So I did see that comment when you posted it, but it didn't dawn on me who or what the show was until you started saying the chicken wings portion of it. The moment you said that, it's like, aha, I know exactly what you're talking about. So if you'd never discovered Farming Simulator, what game would have kind of taken its place? Were you ever prominent in any other spaces where there was a mod hub or something similar?
Um, Modding, no. I've played a bunch of games that have supported mods and did support modding, but I never got into the modding side of things. A few recently that definitely supported mods that I never got into the modding side of things, like SnowRunner. I play SnowRunner on the Xbox, and they support mods on SnowRunner. And actually, some of the SnowRunner mods have made it into FarmSim, um, because they just adapt the same models and bring them to FarmSim, which is kind of weird, but whatever. I never got into modding with that because I was on the Xbox when I was doing it. And then when I got onto more PC playing late within the past couple years, I was playing Satisfactory for a while, for a long, long while, for 1400 hours long while. I put a lot of time into Satisfactory. Um, and they just released into full 1.0, but they supported mods all the way up. And I had multiple playthroughs where one of them I had with no mods, and one of them I had with all the cool mods. But I never got into the modding side of things. I never got into actually editing mods. But on the other side of it, I was very in depth into the Satisfactory community, and being there as a person who could answer questions and help other players and give people ideas on how to do things differently. Um, and again, it's back to that learning aspect that I talked about earlier. I'm learning. So when I play any game, I learn everything there is to know about that game. And then if there's something missing from the game's wiki, I add it. And then I share that wherever I can. I've contributed to dozens of game wikis over the years, just because I want to share what I know. And so I've always been part of the communities for just about every game I've ever played. And to me, it's exciting, and that's a way that I can give back. And so with Farm Sim, I think the difference there is that not only am I part of the community, but I'm also using YouTube and using my Discord channel to share the things I know. I think that's one thing that's somewhat unique about me, and compared to some other modders, is some other modders are like, okay, I know something, but I'm not telling you. It's my secret. I'm not gonna help you. And that's unfortunate. And not all modders like that. Most modders that I know of, or the ones I hang out with, I guess, are really welcoming and give away information whenever they can. They help teach. They help, share their information, and that's one thing that I love to do. So whether it's within FarmSim for modding or outside for other games that I play, I always try to be part of that community and at least understand everything I can about that game, which gives me an edge in the game and helps me play the game better or see the whole story. That's important to me.
Okay, and I think this will be the last question we have for this segment.
Hmm?
Where did the passion for Farming Simulator come from?
No idea. I really have no idea. I think it's that same learning aspect. Every game I play, I try to learn as much as there is to know about it. And when I first started playing Farm Sim, was on my birthday about 4 years ago. I downloaded 2 or 3 new games, and I did a live stream on Twitch at the time. I was on Twitch that back then. I did a live stream. Um, I live streamed almost all day on my birthday. That's what I wanted to do for my birthday. I played Lens Island, which was like a crafting exploration kind of game, which is a lot of fun. And then I played Farm Sim, and I had a third game that I never got to. But I started playing Farm Sim, and I haven't stopped playing Farm Sim since. um, and for whatever reason, I think it was the modding side of it that really hooked me, honestly, is that I originally saw Farm Sim because I was watching a variety player. His name is Raptor. He's pretty big on YouTube and also on Twitch. And he was playing Farm Sim right after it got released. And I'm like, oh, that looks kind of cool. And that was about 2 weeks before my birthday. And I was watching him play, and I was watching him mow grass on Erlengrat playing multiplayer with his friend. And I watched a stream that was 4+ hours long, and they mowed that one big field just north of the starting farm on Erlengrat and they mowed the entire thing and then windrowed it all and then baled it up and then delivered all the bales to the thing. I watched every minute of it. It's like, oh, that looks. I don't know. I don't understand why he's like spending so much time doing that one act. I don't get it. But I'll try it out. Whatever. I wanted a new game, and then it was over. And then a couple weeks later, as I was like, oh, this game's kind of fun. I can see why people like it. Let's learn some more about it. And then I learned about it, and I'm like, oh, there's mods too. Oh, I could do this. And I looked at the code for the mods, and I looked at the first modding video I watched was like DJ Goham's video on how to change the mass of something to update mass equals false onto a trailer when you're changing the capacity to 1 billion liters or whatever. And I was like, oh, let me try that. I can see if I can do that. Oh, it's just XML. That's easy. I can do XML because it's just like HTML. It's pretty easy. And then, but once I was able to realize that I could customize the game that I was playing to make it either more fun for me or work in a different way than it was intended to be used, that's what hooked me, is that ability to use a skill that I have to cross over parts of my life, from gaming to programming, and to be able to combine those two and to still have a lot of fun doing it. And then as soon as I got the other side of that trifecta, which is the teaching side, it was over. And Bonehead is another content creator. He's now on Twitch. He used to be on YouTube. He's a good friend of mine. He jokingly calls me a triple threat because I'm a content creator. I do streaming and I create videos and stuff like that. I'm also a modder and map maker, and I'm also like a teacher within the community, and I help and I teach other people how to do it. And he's every time I come into his streams, like, oh, the triple threats here. But I mean, to be able to take those three parts of my life that were never connected before, which was the gaming, the engineering, and the teaching, to be able to combine those into one space has been a great outlet for me.
So that's certainly one of the most unique kind of introductory stories to Farming Simulator I've personally ever heard. Because most times you often hear, oh, well, I grew up on a farm, or I had some kind of connection. My uncle has one, or someone that's like, I yearn to be out in the countryside, and this just kind of gives me that kind of, immersion factor. Like some of those tend to be kind of the origin stories for most people that I talk to that are really passionate about Farming Simulator. But that's certainly one of the most unique ones I've heard.
When I was doing that, when I got into Farming Simulator, and when I just gotten a gaming laptop, and I was moving away from the motorcycle scene and I needed something else. I needed something else to obsess on. I needed something else to focus my time. I used to be a motorcycle rider. I used to commute in the Bay Area to work every day. I rode 365 days a year. And unfortunately, over time, this Silicon Valley, is horrible for drivers. People have no idea how to drive. And I was in a dozen accidents, maybe not a dozen, maybe 6 or 7 accidents over the course of 10 years. And it was always somebody was cutting me off and I crashed my motorcycle, or I got hit by a car, or whatever, like big accidents. And the last one that happened, I got hit by another motorcyclist, where I was like coming down like a regular road at like 20 miles an hour, like in town. And there was a line of cars next to me that was stopped waiting to turn left at a light. And some guy on a scooter, like not a full-size motorcycle, but a relatively large scooter, he snuck in between 2 cars and T-boned me.
Wow.
And at that point, I'm like, what is going on? And every time I got into an accident, not only would I not be able to get to work because that was my vehicle for getting to work, but I hurt my wrist really bad that time, and my hands are my moneymaker. I'm a software engineer. If I can't type, can't do anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm done. I need to step back. And so I was stepping back from the motorcycle. I sold all my motorcycles. I sold all my stuff, everything. And I needed an outlet for my creativity. And again, same thing with motorcycling. I was deeply, deeply into the adventure motorcycling community. I have another YouTube channel with probably hundreds of people who I subscribe to and helped make their YouTube channels better and help build their bikes and all that kind of stuff. Like doing the same kind of thing I do for Farm Sim, but doing it in a different community. And so I was looking for a community to join, and it kind of just fell in my lap.
Well, that's awesome, and then I'm sure I'll speak for many here, but we're certainly thankful that this is kind of the avenue that you were able to find yourself in, because like I said, there's at least two mods I can think off the top of my head, because I'm a console player. Hopefully one day I'll make the leap to PC, but we'll see. But two mods I can think off the top of my head that were just absolute game changers for me, and that was the variable width and the bio baler. Those two right there were just just chef's kiss. So yes, I'm certainly glad that you made your way to the.
Those
to
are
the
both
scene
coming.
here.
Those are both coming to 25. I'm almost done.
Oh man, cannot wait! Cannot wait. So we're gonna wrap up the first segment there,
Yeah.
and we're gonna quickly breeze through the chat here just to see if we have any questions or anything like that. Starting out with a couple of member chats here. We got a 10-month member chat from Jonah saying 10 months of fun. Thank you, Jonah. Greatly appreciate it. Jonah also gifted the one membership. Thank you, Jonah, and it went to Kiwi Sims Farmer. We have Whiskey Creek with 2 months of membership saying 2 months, time for a lot more fun. Absolutely. And just doing a quick breeze through the chat, we got Jonah with a $1.99 super chat saying smile. I'm smiling. You get to see the teeth. Oh, let's see. We got any questions in the chat? And also, if you have any questions for Josh here, go ahead and put them into the chat. I'll do my best to skim through and try and find them out and pass them along. So I'm not seeing a ton. It just looks like a bunch of people giving out random chats. So again, if you have any chats, go
There was
ahead.
actually I caught two. I've been
Oh.
watching the chat too. So I saw two different both Dust Bunny and Krusty had commented on my dancing. Thanks guys. Um, Whiskey Creek Farm asked me if I've ever been to Llama, because that's the one that's on the mind. And no, I haven't. I've never been to any. I've never been to any farming related convention. I've been to plenty of conventions. I've been to, like, we used to go to Anime
Ralph
Expo
Fanning
and stuff like
Jonah
that
donated
almost every year,
$1.99
because
through
I was
Super
working for a
Chat.
company that was part of
What's
that
your
community.
favorite song?
But I've never been to a farming related convention, and something like Llama would be very, very hard for me to go to, because I can't go to Llama by myself. I'd have to bring my whole family, and that's an expensive endeavor. So no, I haven't been to Llama, though I would love to be part of one of those kind of maker meetups, especially if it happened in the US. I might try to find a way to get there. And then the other one I saw in here with Farming with Outlaw, dropped in a small question reel here is, do I watch any real life farming channels on YouTube? And if I do, which one's my favorite? Not really. I've seen a little bit of Tom Pemberton, I believe is this Tom Pemberton stuff, and then Ollie, who's UK farmer. Ollie's blog, Answer is a Percent, is always one of his things in his title. I forget his real name. Somebody linked me over to his stuff because they were doing a first video I ever saw of him. Someone linked me over there, was they were doing a Unimog, like they were doing a Unimog race against a tractor, and I'm a huge Unimog fan. If I could ever buy any car in the world, it would be a Unimog. But I don't really watch them very often, just because I don't have time for the real life farming. So I don't watch any of the US real life farmers. I've seen stuff here and there every once in a while, but like Millennial Farmer or any of the other big ones. I've watched a couple less well known real life farmers. I watched a lot of the Chronicles of Kayla. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of her, but her and her husband run a grass business. Grass work is my favorite in the game. They run a hay business essentially, and she's one of the tractors, and she live streams and records videos while driving a tractor. And I watched a bunch of her stuff, but I kind of jump around and don't really have time for a lot of real life content.
I would imagine that your time is extremely limited to be able to consume content. You're really kind of pushing the content out. So I think that from based on what I'm hearing to here tonight, it sounds like you're kind of in the same boat as I am. Is all your efforts going into either family, work, and modding, aka pushing stuff out, rather than
Mhm.
consuming stuff coming in. So
And even with the modding and the content, even that's a balance. As much as I want to play the game, I don't actually play the game. Like I will play the game when I'm live streaming, and I rarely play it outside of that. Like since Farm Sim 25 was released, I've probably started the game 1,000 times, easy, maybe 2,000 times. But if you look at my thing on Steam, I have like 200 play hours. But like when I'm building mods, I'm starting the game and quitting it over and over and over and over 100 times a day, um, because that's what you need to do to change code and test the code and see if it works. You're constantly doing that kind of cycle. But I wish I had more time to play, and I wish I had more time to just consume content. But when I do consume content, I'm consuming content from smaller channels, from smaller creators, people who are real, people who are genuine and authentic. I usually stray away from the larger channels, whether it be for real life content or farm sim content.
makes sense. Makes absolute sense. We got Jonah with a $1.99 super chat. Says, "What is your favorite song?"
Not favorite song. I do have a favorite album. I can go there because I like every single song on the album. It would be Radiohead, OK Computer. I'm a
That's a
huge
good one.
Radiohead fan, and that's just an opus. That album is got to be one of my favorites. Well, that's the at least well-known one. I have a lot of other favorite songs that are not well-known. Another one, if you guys ever want to see a really amazing video, that's not really a unique song, look up Hybrid and look up his Smooth Criminal remix. It's a if it's a just a he's an amazing pianist, and he did his own version of Smooth Criminal on the piano. It's unbelievable. Look up that video if you ever get a chance. I'll try to drop it in the chat or something.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Star Spangled Farm says, "What are your future plans for a survival mod that you can discuss?"
He was asking me about that earlier today. The survival skills mod is something that I started developing in 22, really late in the 22 life cycle. And I was hoping to get it out for 22, but I realized that um, with 25 coming out, it wasn't worth my time and effort because I was going to have to rewrite most of it. The survival skills mod was intended to fill a gap that I saw, um, but not many people saw. But I thought it might be something interesting more people do, which is the one thing Farm Sim is missing from my perspective is story, is something that is the challenge of it. It's so easy to start a new game and you start with $1 million or you start with $500,000 and you just buy all the cool equipment and you just go. And you never get to experience the raw part of using the 3-meter cultivator. You don't, because there's no reason to, because you can just go buy the big one, or you can lease yourself the machine that's 500 horsepower, and you don't care. So the survival skills mod was that if you're playing a survival type series, how do you actually survive, and what kind of limitations can you apply on yourself, or what kind of limitations can be applied on you to make it really feel like a surviving series or a surviving playthrough where you actually have to work your way up. You have to learn. You have to start with the really bad stuff and the really small equipment, and you have to work your way up to success. And how do you track that? So how do you gamify that? How do you um, take the tutorial idea that Giants has not done a very good job with, honestly. And how do you extend that to the entire gameplay, not just the first 5 minutes, but how do you take that kind of tutorial idea of, okay, go do this field. Okay, well, that mod intended to, okay, once you've cultivated 50 hectares, then you can upgrade your cultivator to the next size up, and you can go up by 1 meter. And so you're slowly working your way up over time and over a number of hours in the vehicles you use, and over, you can't use auto load from the beginning until you've loaded 100 pallets by hand or with a forklift. Right? You can't use a forklift until you've loaded 100 pallets with a front end loader. You can't use you can't lots of like those kind of limitations on building your gameplay up from nothing slowly.
That sounds amazing, to be honest with you. Is it a PC only a mod, or is... I would assume so.
Yes, PC only, because I'm rewriting the Giants engine. No, I have to use Lua scripting to integrate with parts of the Giants engine that and data that's in the Giants engine that is used for other things. So like the number of hours on your tractor, it's there, it's data, but it doesn't the ability to say, okay, if the number of hours on your tractor is greater than 50, then unlock this other feature. That's code. That's scripting that needs to happen. And so it has to be script based to do that.
Makes sense. Makes absolute sense. All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and move into our second segment here called Meat and Potatoes, emphasis on potatoes. This is the getting to know you portion where it's more focused on the farming simulator side of things. So currently, do you only produce FS content, or do you do other styles of content? I think you mentioned that you did other gaming content on your channel. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, the intention for the channel was always to not just be one specific game, which is why it's not called Farming Joy. It's called Gaming Joy. It's not just one game. It's multiple. It's always intended to be that way. So yeah, I do other games. I've played more recently, especially in the gap between 22 and 25. I was playing Satisfactory. I originally was playing a little bit of No Man's Sky on the channel when I first created it. And then more recently, I'm starting to get in. I have a bunch of games that are on my Steam wish list that I'd really love to play, but I end up playing a lot of Farm Sim. And so I'm starting to integrate some of those other games, which lead to, other parts of gaming that I really enjoy. And can I create some content on those other types of games?
Absolutely. And so if I remember correctly, you said that you started playing around 4 years ago, Farming Simulator. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. December of 2021.
So that puts you roughly at the tail end of 19, maybe even early
Mm,
22. Is that right?
2022 was released around Thanksgiving of that year, and I started playing a couple weeks later.
Gotcha. Okay. So have you, like, now that you're kind of really deep into the Farming Simulator, I think I know the answer to this question, but have you, well, one, have you ever wanted to kind of go back in time to see kind of the previous iterations of things that you've missed up until this point?
Mm,
Or are you more of a looking forward kind of person?
I'm definitely a looking forward kind of person. I have taken some concepts and ideas that were in previous versions of Farm Sim from what people have told me, and incorporated some of those things into newer mods. Like as an example, CCS 101 released a map. I forget the name of the map. It was a Florida map, a really amazing Florida map. And he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, can you do my weather chat? The weather, not the weather, the growth chart for me." And so I created a custom growth chart based off of that same map's growth chart in 19, so that he could release it in 22. And so going off of previous games iterations and going off of some of the things that were available in previous games and incorporating some of that into new stuff whenever I can. But I've never played 19 or anything earlier than that. I've seen plenty of videos on that content. I've chosen not to go backwards to play that content. I'm always looking forward. In some ways, when I'm making mods, every mod that I make, I hope that Giants will incorporate into their game, as is their right.
Gotcha. So, what was one thing that you never expected when you started creating content? Like the sense of community or just unexpected backlash? Or, like what's something that you just never anticipated to receive?
Um, I think getting into it, I never expected to become part of the community. I never expected to. I think I was hoping for it, and but I would never expect it to be part of it. I never expected anything out of it. I just I'll whatever comes my way, I'm accepting and I'm humbled by it. Um, the other side of it, I think, is I don't expect some of the negativity I see some other creators getting. I've never really gotten that kind of negativity, but I see other people around me getting that negativity, and I tend to be the person who stands up for them, and I tend to be the person who stands up for them, defends them, and then at the same time, while I'm defending them, I'm reaching out to them privately and be like, "Hey, I see what you're going through. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here." And for people who don't even know me, and I've made some really great friends that way.
Well, and that's awesome, and you're absolutely right. The community that we have going on here is just incredible. You know, it was one of the things I never expected when I got into this space, and it's amazing that you are not only putting yourself out there as a modder, but as a content creator, as you know, all these different avenues that you're taking, but also it sounds like you're putting yourself out there as almost a friend to be able to like, hey, you
Of
know,
course.
lean on me if you need to, kind of thing.
And I never expect anything back, and I never expect any kind of um, pushback. And I see other creators getting flack for no reason whatsoever. Keyboard warriors are prevalent in this community, unfortunately. And I see that happening, and I've seen that in plenty of other types of communities as well. So I know that it happens. I also know that not every person is built to have a thick enough skin to push that kind of negativity away. And so the two sides of it that I see is number one, defending them, standing up for them, pulling out my ban hammer whenever I can and getting rid of them. But also being someone who can be there for that person. Um, I know because some of those kind of negativity can cause depression, and I lost my best friend to depression, and I know the havoc that can wreak on someone's life. And when I see things like that happening in the community around me, number one, it appalls me, but number two, I will stand up for anyone if they're experiencing something like that, because I know what can happen, and the worst thing in the world can happen, and I know that it can because I've had it happen more than once.
And let me express that I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Um,
It's okay.
that's one of those things that it's never easy. And again, I can relate to you very deeply because I'm also the kind of person who likes to stick up for people. It's one of those that I don't like seeing, you know, somebody who can't weather the storm, you know, go at it by themselves. So whenever I have the opportunity, I tend to do the same thing and stick up for them as best as I can. And anybody who's followed my channel for long enough will know some of the stories I've told on there. So no, that's fantastic. And
Yeah, I
like,
mean, as an example, I went and did so right there's two examples that I'll give, and they're both public knowledge, so I'm not like sharing anything crazy. But like when Lancey Boy was having problems with American Falls when it first got released, I saw it happening. I stood back. I don't know Lancey Boy directly, but I did message him and I'm like, if there's anything you can do to help, I'm really sorry that you're getting all this flack. He never responded, but that's fine. But because he didn't respond, I went and did a live stream on American Falls, and I talked about in that live stream for 2.5 hours about fighting that negativity from both a community standpoint as well as a personal standpoint, and how to overcome that negativity when it's directed at you. And then the other situation that happened around the same time, I think, Poor Boy was getting a ton of flack when Black Mountain was released, and I heard through the grapevine that he was going to quit, and that his other maps that were in progress were never going to come out because he's tired of the community, because the community gave him a ton of flack for the stupidest things. And the keyboard warriors came at him from all arms. He ended up getting like a 3.2 on his map for the rating for no reason whatsoever, other than people were like, it doesn't have this type of thing, or there's too many trees on this map, blah blah blah, whatever. And I not only stood up for him, but I reached out to him, and I was frank with him, like, you don't know me, I see what you're going through, I love your map. If there's anything I can do, even if you just need someone to talk to, I'm here. And I ended up forming a friendship with Poor Boy, and then helping him get back in the saddle, make his next map, and then which was Mason County, and I helped him a lot with testing and development and all that kind of stuff with Mason County, and then that's formed a friendship. And I was one of his partners in making Deadwood, which was his last map that he released for 22, and I had a big part in Deadwood, and there's multiple features on that map that I built for Poor Boy because I was like, okay, this is a cool idea, what do you think? He's like, dude, do it, here's the zip file, add it, and then let me know when you're done. And so, like, I didn't have to do that, you know what I mean? But I can't stand to see when those situations happen. And I also know that sometimes it's that one lifeline that someone needs to take them off the edge. And if I can be that person, I'm happy to be that person, no matter what the cost is.
And that's fantastic. I mean, it's one of those things, like you said, it's not something you have to do, but it sounds like you're happy to do it. And, I think the best thing I can say is, good on you, and keep it up, because you never know what that random act of kindness is going to do for somebody who's out there in the world, just kind of talking them off the edge kind of thing. So that's an amazing story, and thank you for sharing it, because
Of course.
it's kind of goes into why I started this specific series of Farm Sim Talk in these kind of interview kind of things. Is I wanted to be able to have a way for the creators who are out there to be able to have an outlet to say, hey, we're all human. We're capable of making mistakes. We're capable of doing all these different things that are both positives and negatives in the world. And, please offer us some grace. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the whole point and purpose of this series, is to bring not only modders like yourself and creators and stuff, but just a wide spectrum of people, because like you said, the keyboard warriors are out there in troves. And it's one of those to where hopefully if we can come out here and share that kind of personal stuff with people, that might make the connection that, hey, this is a person on the other end. Maybe I ought to back off and kind of understand and give them some kind of leeway before I just start hammering them. And hopefully something like what happened with like Lancey Boy and Poor Boy, getting as far as he did, hopefully things like that won't continue to happen. Hopefully we'll start to build some kind of rapport, not only with our audiences, but just with like I said, the keyboard warriors themselves, to kind of
Of course.
offer some grace. So
Yeah.
that I that might come off as kind of corny or something, but it's one of those that was the motivating factor for this series. And
Of course.
it might fall on deaf ears, but even if we can reach one person out there who would have lashed out, that might be that one person that pushes that creator, that modder, the map maker, whatever, pushed them to their breaking point. So
Yeah, I think we have to realize that, this is a conversation that was going on somewhere else today, but someone was saying that, you know, another creator was getting up in arms because people were saying that mods make the game and modders make the game what it is. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. And I don't necessarily think that mods make the game. Giants makes the game. But I think that Giants builds the game for their vision of how the game should be played and what they want to see in the game. But I think that one of the things that makes Farm Sim as a game so special is that there isn't one way to play it. There's 100,000 million different ways to play it, and everyone has their own play style. Everyone has their own desire of how to do things, or what they want to do, or what they want to spend their time doing. And I think that the modding community enhances the game by making it better for all of those other edge cases off of the one path that Giants builds for. Giants builds for that one path. Everyone else out to the outside is they're being kind of forced right now, especially with the lack of mods, to play that one way because that's all there is. And I think that the modding community is there to fill in all the gaps and to make it so that you can fast farm, you can have, you can play realistic, you can have really old tractors that aren't in the game at all. Like, there's people who want to play like that. There's people who want to recreate the farm that they grew up on. That's awesome. But the modding community is the ones making that happen, not Giants. And they've proven that that's not their intention. Their intention is sponsorships and making money off of their game, which is their right. But they've moved away from older equipment intentionally. And it's the modding community that's going to bring that back. So I think that while the modding community doesn't make the game, we do make the game better.
100%. I mean, there's that. I probably couldn't have said it any better than that. It's one of those that, the modders and the modding community, they enhance what's already there. And if it wasn't for the modding community, you're right, we wouldn't have all the different avenues and veins that every single person can go down. That's something I always praise about this game, is just how, it's so customizable to whatever style you want to play. And even if you want to play many different styles, you can do that too. That's one of the amazing things about it. Now, checking out some of the things that you've released, if I see this right, you've released 8 mods back for FS22, and I believe you have one for 25. Is that accurate?
So far.
So, looking at your mods for 22,
Yeah.
what one was the most difficult mod to make?
Question. There was 2, and they were for completely different reasons. The spawn palette stacked mod was probably the hardest to make and took the longest. That took me 9 months or so. Because I was still learning Lua at the time, and I didn't know Lua very well as a language. That was part of the reason it was hard. But the other part of the reason it's hard is Giants. Makes it hard. Because they don't provide documentation for the hidden game code. So there's 2 pieces to the Giants code. There's the piece that's in your data directory, which you can go and see and look at. And then there's all of the script code, which is in the data S directory, which is an encoded directory that's on your hard drive, but it's encoded. You can't see the files. You don't know how things work. You have to guess. So making a mod like that is entirely a guessing game. It's, okay, I want to spawn palettes. Okay, well, production points spawn palettes. Okay, well, let me look at the production points object and let's dump it out to the console and let me look at the shape of it. Okay, well, somewhere in there is how the spawn points are and where they're positioned. Okay, can I change that information? And I went down this long thing where I'm literally dumping out these massive objects to the console and then reading the console and trying to decipher how things work on the back end. And it took me 10 times longer than it should have taken because there's no documentation, there's no explanation for that stuff, and all of that code is encoded for almost no reason. I don't see why it's encoded at all. But it took way longer than it should have. But I'm very happy that it was released and people still love it and people are clamoring for it to come back. So that's on my list. I have a very, very long list. And then I think the other one that was hard was the one that you really like, which is the VPW mod. And of course, the BioBailer also has the VPW add-on. And that was hard because I wanted to make that mod for console. I made that mod originally as a script, and it took me 2 weeks. And then it took me another 6 months to figure out how to do the same thing, but to do it that could be released for all platforms. Because when you're building a mod for all platforms, you're limited to XML. You can't do anything other than XML, nothing else. You can have objects, obviously the models themselves. There's no code. You can't have any kind of scripting. And so there's still scripting there, but it's scripting through animations. And I had to figure out that whole animation system to be able to figure out how that stuff works and then tie everything together. So that one took me a long while because I had the idea, I had it working. I think I posted a short of it working. And I didn't actually get it released until 6 to 9 months later because it took so long to figure out how to get it out for all platforms. And that's what I was determined to do is whenever I can, and I know people like yourself and many other people that I follow and I'm friends with, they're console only. They don't have a PC. They don't want to be on PC. They want to be on console, like Rusty, who's you're going to be interviewing tomorrow. For them to get my mods, they have to be built in a certain way. And I will do everything I can to support that side of the community. Because the PC side of the community, it's easy. I can release something on GitHub and people can download it and use it tomorrow. There's no wait. There's no thing. And if there's a problem with it, they just tell me and I fix it and I release a new version and done. It's super easy. But going through ModHub is this whole additional layer of complexity that is not documented, is not well understood, and the feedback that you get from Giants is usually out of left field. And they don't give you any explanation. They're like, your mod has this error in this place or is doing this, fix it. They don't tell you how to fix it. They just say, there's this problem, fix it. And it's up to you as a modder to figure out what they're even talking about. And usually there's a translation gap because most of the testers are German. And then to be able to go fix it, and then you have to submit it. But when in 22, the process is that you get a mod, you submit it, you wait whatever that long time of testing is, they kick it back to you, and then you submit an update to fix what they told you to fix. But you go to the back of the line. Right now, that line is 20 days, 20 working days. Yeah. Now they have a separate queue for updates or retesting for when you actually went through the queue already. But in 22, they didn't. And so for the Spawn Palette Stack mod, I actually went through the queue, I think 6 times. Wow. Because they kept coming back and saying, oh, if you do this one thing in this one place, or you get this little error or warning in the console, we don't want any warnings in the console. And so there was a lot of this back and forth, and this back and forth always caused that 2-week waiting cycle, or sometimes 2 weeks. Right now, it's 2 months.
Yeah, they're certainly backlogged with all the mods because they take that 2-week long gap between Christmas and New Year's. So there's nothing happening then. There's and plus all the modders and stuff. I'm sure they're excited to get as much done or as everything they can as quickly as possible, so we can all start to enjoy the stuff. So I'm sure that they're absolutely slam packed with a ton of mods and testing and trying to burn through everything as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's one of those kind of a frustrating thing, and I could see how incredibly frustrating, especially back in 22 where there wasn't the different queues, how frustrating that would be is sitting there, like you said, going through 6 separate times, for a full queue. That would be incredibly frustrating.
And still to this day, you don't have any idea about what's going on behind the scenes. And I think this is one place where Giants could be better about the way they handle things, whether that's being better publicly to the community or being better to the modder in question or the modders who are actually submitting their mods. There's a gap in communication there, and that gap I could never understand. I'm in the software development industry. Communication is king. 100% of my job is communication right now. And Giants has pulled back on their communication with 25. They've stopped doing the testing list. They took out the number of mods waiting. I don't know if you guys know, about a couple of days ago, they stopped posting the number of mods waiting because people were complaining to them, being like, "Why is there 1,100 mods waiting?" Because people want to submit mods. Mm-hmm. But I think that they're pulling back on the communication so that they don't have to explain themselves. And I think there's a difference in that they're doing less communication when, if I was in their shoes, I would do the opposite. I would over communicate, where I would tell the community, this is how many mods are waiting. We have 5 people. Each of those people can do X number of mods per day. Do the math. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, you know, and the people say, go hire more testers. We are hiring more testers. Here's the job application, right? And then for the modders, okay, if I submit my mod, okay, I don't know where I am in that queue. I don't know how long it's going to be until I get to the front of the queue. I have no idea. I don't know how long it's going to be in testing. It just says testing 0 days, testing 1 days, testing 2 days. I don't know. Like, I have a mod right now in testing, and I submitted that mod on December 2nd.
Okay.
No communication whatsoever over that whole time about how long it will be. And they didn't start posting the number of days until they came back from break. So up until 2 weeks ago, I had no idea. I had no idea how long it was going to take. I think they could be handling it better. I think they could be telling the mods, hey, you're number 7 in the list. Hey, today you're number 5. Hey, today you're number 2. Okay, I know. Oh, okay, cool. I'm almost ready. They could be doing better through automated ways. I'm not saying to do for anyone to do more work, but through automated ways, they could easily make their communication with the modern community much better.
Well, and here's hoping that that's a path that they're striving towards, and maybe we're just not aware of it in the foreground, and it's all happening in the background. Maybe wishful thinking, but you know,
Mhm.
better wishful thinking than no hope.
Exactly. So I always try to stay positive about it. I may sound crass about it, and I may point out their failures. Jack Sarge is asking a question in chat of whether content creators are the voice of the community. You know, are we the ones responsible to call giants out when they go wrong? And I think the answer is yes, because no one else is going to. And I think that I would hope, and I still have an internal hope, that they listen and that they hear those voices, whether it's through content creation or whether it's through the messages that I'll send them in their internal messaging program. I hope that they see the bugs that I'm reporting. I really do. I don't know if they do because they never tell me, but I hope that they do, and I hope that they take that to heart, and I hope that they understand that I'm trying to be helpful. Just as I'm helpful to the whole community, I'm also being helpful to giants. And if they don't see that or they don't take that help, it's their loss, because I'm genuinely trying to help.
Well, and that kind of falls back to what we were saying before about the keyboard warriors. And I'm not saying that anybody's being a keyboard warrior when pointing things out to giants, but just make sure that if you are approaching them, do it with respect. Make sure that you're doing constructive criticism kind of thing, because there's, they can experience the same exact thing that we were talking about with Poor Boy and Lancy Boy. So it's
100%.
one of those things to where if we start lashing out at them, saying, "Hey, do better," they'll recoil from us as well, kind of thing.
In almost all of those situations, the negativity is always stronger than the positivity.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is if you do a review of a thing you bought on Amazon, most of the people who take the time to type and submit a review are doing so because something went wrong or they didn't like something. The people who are angry are more likely to submit feedback than the people who are happy with it, because the people who are happy with it, they're too busy playing the game or whatever, or using the thing they bought on Amazon to actually report, to submit feedback. And so because of that, the negativity outweighs the positivity when it's there, because all they're hearing is the negativity, because that's the loudest voice. Because when people are mad about something, they are willing to be loud. And I think that's not only for modders, but also for giants or for any software development company. I think that you have to understand that, and sometimes you have to read through that negativity to get to the underlying problem.
Yep.
Someone could be sending a message to giants and sending them nasty stuff like, why is there blah, 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 I'm so complaining. And then then you realize that they're just mad because that you didn't include the one tractor that they wanted to play with. And that negativity doesn't help anyone, in all honesty. And I always prefer constructive criticism to negativity.
Oh, absolutely. And constructive criticism can be a very powerful thing, especially if people are willing to listen to it. It's one of those that it can cause people to change or to reevaluate the things that they are doing. But, it's the whole, catch more flies with honey than vinegar kind of thing. You're
Yep.
not, if you're sitting there lashing out at people, then they're going to recoil and they're going to be like, nope, I'm done with it. And if you sit there and it's like, hey, I just want to bring this to your attention, be respectful and just kind of air things out, then oftentimes people will at minimum listen and tell you or try to give you a reason as to why things are happening in the way that they're happening. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if anything going forward, just, like I said, be positive, air out your grievances, but do it in a way that isn't going to be, the keyboard warrior esque kind of thing,
Of
lashing
course.
out.
Of course.
So we're familiar with your mods and got some great ones out there. Earlier, you mentioned that you're working on some maps. Is there any kind of details that you can divulge to us about them?
Sure. So for in 22, I had a hand in 3, 4, 5. I don't remember, a lot of a bunch of other people's maps, helping them solve problems or fixing them or adding features. I worked with the Shanty Boys team on multiple maps to add new maps onto their map, to add new gameplay modes, adding in some of Rusty's challenges directly into the map, so that even someone on console can have all of the information they need and the challenge set up for them in the map. And I work with them to get that on ModHub. For 25, I'm doing some of the same. I've been trying to, whenever I can, work with some map makers to help them with their maps and whatnot. But I also have a couple maps of my own that I want to make. One of them is centered around the area I live in. I live just outside of a very, very intense farming area in California. And it's not the kind of map that I would ever play, but I imagine that other people might like playing that map. Whenever I look at maps or look at maps that I want to create, I always want there to be a hook, something different, something that makes you want to play the map. The one map I want to make is I want to make a single map that's centered around one point, the center of a town, and I want to make that map in 3 sizes. So I want to make it normal sized, then I want to make it, bigger, and then very much bigger, centered around the same town. So you could play the small version on consoles on the regular, 1x size. And then I also want to make a 9x size, which is basically that same map in the center plus 8 more maps around it, bigger, and then bigger. And then I want to go up to the 25x size. And those are sizes that most people, there's a huge argument going on in the community that says, no, that's not possible to make a 25x map. That doesn't exist. It's either 4, 16, or 64. You can't make a 25. It doesn't exist. I tell you it does. I know for a fact because I have one on my computer. But I would like to do that. And then the other one I want to make is the opposite. I want to make a map that's a survival map series. So I want to make a single download that has multiple maps inside of it that are all a quarter. So 1/4 of a normal size map. So 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. Instead of 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer. Small map. And I want them to be survival type gameplay where you are presented with something that you have to solve, a situation that you're in, and that you have to find a way to make a living for yourself when posed with that situation. Simple things like I'm on the side of a mountain. That's one of them. Or I'm in a gully. I'm in deep inside of a gully, and there's one road to a sell point, and that's it. That's all I have. I have to be able to figure out how to make something with this land that I'm on. That's one of the other maps that I have. And then the last one is I want to make an island, and I want to make it 4 maps. I get really complex with this stuff. But if you think of a 4x map. A 4x map is 1, 2, 3, 4 maps, right? In a grid. I want to make a 4x map that's also 4 1x maps and have them all in the same zip file. So that if you're on console, you could play the whole land of the 4x map with 4 different game saves. If that makes any sense.
Wow,
And the same concept where each map would be a different biome. If you think of like a other kinds of games where you have a harbor biome, and then you have a forest biome, and then you have a rolling hills biome, and then you have a gully biome, and the 4 maps all join together, and like you have a train that goes around the island. But when you play one of the maps, you only have a quarter of the train. But if you have the ability to play the 4x version, you would have the whole thing all together as one. And that's the idea. And I've been very vocal about that on my Discord, and I have much more explanations on how that would work and how it would be built. But that would be kind of my magnum opus, I guess.
I mean, it sounds fantastic. And are you intending to have those come out for all platforms, or?
That's the plan, is that I will release as much of that to all platforms as possible. So like the one that's local to California, if Giants only allows the 1x size, then I'll release the 1x size. And if you can't play the bigger version of it unless you're on a bigger platform or a PC, then that's a bummer. But the console people can still play the smaller version. And then the four grid one is intended specifically for consoles, in that consoles can't, as of today, can't get a 4x map, even though it technically works, because of a limitation that Giants has put in place. I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to go against that limitation. I'm going to give them a way to still play that entire world, but they might have to do it with 4 different saves.
Which I think is based on the limitations, sounds like a really good kind of compromise. You know, yeah, you might have to jump through some hoops, but at least you get to do it.
I got the idea from Scroft, actually.
That's brilliant.
Because in his playthrough, he does this thing where we're gonna drive to so and so's house. We're gonna go to Brixie's house and go look at some tractors. And so he drives from Comsden to forget the name of the map, but this another map essentially in the same vehicle. And so one scene he's in the vehicle driving off the edge of Comsden's map, and the next scene he's driving on to the next map, and he's continuing the playthrough, but across 2 save games, 2 maps. Now he's done that multiple times now, and I think that's where I got the idea for it. Is that how could you conceptually build something like that?
So when you were to publish that, let's say everything went smoothly and whatnot, would you publish that as 4 separate like maps to release to the hub, or would you
one download?
One download, and then it would just contain the 4 maps?
It would be one download. There would be a PC Mac version, and there would be a cross-platform version. The PC Mac version would include the 4X variant, and the all platforms version would include 4 start maps in one zip file, very much like New Frontiers has the 3 different versions of the map, all within the same zip file.
Gotcha. No, that sounds absolutely brilliant. So I know that we're starting to come up on time, and I want to be able to respect that. So I've got one last question to ask
Sure.
you from my end before we start, wrapping things up here. So, what was one of the biggest projects that you've worked on so far?
Biggest within the game?
Yes.
The survival skills mod was probably one of the biggest projects, because that touches so much of the game engine, and that game engine is not documented. It took forever to do, and I'm still not done. And I think that because of that, it's been kind of a monumental project. I spent 6 to 9 months working on that mod, and I live streamed the new versions of that mod every week. And I had a whole series on that mod, showing that mod off. Once I was like 6 months into it, that's when I started the series. And then I was adding new features every week while I was live streaming once a week. And that was probably the biggest project. There's another one that I still haven't released yet. That's been a really big project, which is similar to the one that I have for 25, which is called Contract Boost. I have another one that I never released for 22, but I'm bringing it over, called Production Boost. It basically does the same thing for the production system that the contract boost does for the contract system. So giving you the ability to customize and boost your productions and customize. Like, one of the biggest things, the worst things that I think a lot of people are saying is like, oh, well, I have this sawmill, and the sawmill is in the base game, but that sawmill, I can't, without editing the XML or editing the code behind that sawmill, I can't change how fast it is or how many cycles per month or how much input or how much output. You can't do anything with that. And so I have a script-based mod that allows you to customize everything and do whatever you want. I jokingly used that mod on my Comston series, where I called in extra workers at the tailor shop to be able to handle the massive harvest of cotton to make sure we could actually produce clothes for everything. And I used that mod to basically turn the cycles per month up to like 1,000 times what they normally are, or something, just to be able to produce enough to be able to finish off the series. But that's another really, really big one. I've probably spent close to a year developing that one, and it's still not done.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, so like I said, I want to be respectful on your time because you have a hard stop. So now we're going to go into the final segment of that's a silage wrap. Now this is, I know they're corny, but why
It's a
not?
great name. It's a great name.
So, anyways, let's quickly catch up with the chat here. I did find one from Dust Bunny saying, "Mr. Gaming Joy Josh, bullying comes in all shapes and sizes and colors. My hat's off to you, sir, for being the kind of person that stands up for the ones being bullied. Thank you, sir."
Of course.
It is not a question, but I thought that was a very good sentiment, and I 100% agree with it.
I think that speaks to how I like to be in the community to some degree.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's one of those where that's a very respectable position that you take, and one of them that I fully understand and would be right there next to you, kind of thing. I personally don't like when I see bullying, and just it's not necessary, especially in this space. We've got such a great thing going on that for a handful of people to be able to come around and just ruin it for everyone it's a shame, and it's not necessary.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
Let's see. Whiskey Creek with the gifted membership went to Welsh Sim Farmer. Thank you so much, Whiskey. Greatly appreciate it. Let's see if we see any questions just real quick here. We got we got Will T Gaming, also known as the FS Encyclopedia, says, just a question, is he taking mod requests? If not, it's okay.
I think Dust Bunny answered that a little while down, and the answer is no. And I have a channel on my Discord when you join, and it's a README, which basically says, no, I don't take requests. I will listen to ideas, and then I will bend over backwards to teach you how to do that for yourself. But I don't do custom mods for people. I'd rather teach you how to do it so that you can not only make that mod, but make a dozen mods after that, than do it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the, give a man a fish, he'll eat it for a day. Teach a man to fish,
100%.
He'll eat for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
Let's see. We got Nacho Cast saying, what is your quest?
My quest. Is there any contacts with that, Nacho?
Yeah, that I'm not quite sure. I was hoping you knew.
I don't think there is, but my quest, if there is one at all, and as far as farm sim is considered in general, is I want to enable people to play the game however they want. I have an idea on how I like to play, and some of the mods that I make enable that. I see, because I understand how they think, I see where Giants sometimes misses the boat on how people want to play. And I like to provide mods that will enable people to bypass some of the things that just don't make sense, like mineral feed. Why is the only way you can buy mineral feed in pallets of 1,000 one at a time? You can't buy multiple, you can only buy one at a time. That's the dumbest thing ever. So I made my farm fill station, which allows you to buy it in bulk in a trailer and just dump it into your production. If you're running a cow barn with 200 cows, you need like 40,000 liters of mineral feed a day. You want to buy those in individual pallets? Hell no. And so that's my quest, is to make mods that enable people to play however they want. Contract Boost is just that way. I have people who are using Contract Boost to make it harder, to not make it easier, but to make it harder. And I've actually added features into that mod so that they can make it really, really hard. And because it's not just how I want to play, it's how anyone wants to play. And I think that's my quest, is to be able to make those kind of things.
Absolutely. So once again, can you tell people where to find you?
Sure. So I'm on YouTube at Gaming Joy, GMNG Joy. That's the username I've chosen across all platforms without the A and the I. And so I'm on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, and Discord, all with that same GMNG Joy. I believe that Dust Bunny has shared my Discord in the chat a couple times. I do live streams usually once or twice a week. I will be producing content. I think this year, or this version of the game, I'm going to be trying to put in more tutorial content and less like challenge or let's play content. Being that I think that there's a gap in the community about sharing knowledge, and I want to be able to provide that solution. And I haven't, as anyone who's watching my videos, I have an interesting way of teaching and explaining things that some people tend to latch onto. So I hope that I can help people learn how to mod on their own.
Excellent. I've got all the links listed in the description below, so go
Perfect.
ahead and check out Josh over at Gaming Joy and all the different locations there. Josh, I want to thank you so very, very much for hanging out with us here tonight, doing this interview. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, and I had an absolute blast, and I hope you did as well.
I did too, and thank you so much for everyone. I've been watching the chat as it comes along. I'm seeing everyone's comments. Thank you so much for being here and enjoying the interview. This has been a ton of fun for me. I've never been interviewed before, so that's actually pretty interesting. And it's way more fun than a job interview. So,
Well, I'd certainly hope so. At least less pressure is on you when it comes to a job interview in comparison.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And if there's anybody out there that you in the chat would like me to do an interview with, go ahead and message me directly. I've got all my links listed in the description below. I will do my best to get a hold of them and see what we can set up here for the channel going forward. So again, I appreciate
Awesome.
everybody who has come by here tonight. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please show them by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things the algorithms enjoy you doing. The shows you're engaged with this channel and enjoying the content. And that being said, hope everybody has a fantastic day. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Josh, can you hang on until after the outro, and I'll catch up with you on the other side?
Yep.
All right. Take care, everyone.